What industry secret do you know that most people don't?
If you find an extra nugget in your order, it wasn't a mistake. You got a cool employee.
The New York Times bestseller list has a lot of people on it who buy massive numbers of their own books.
The reason why the kid fell off the Orlando freefall ride. Any ride with an over-the-shoulder restraint system works by using a proximity sensor to let the computer system know where the restraint is locked. The ride can't move unless all the sensors sense the correct metal at the correct position. On some rides you can move the sensor a few millimeters for proper alignment. Not enough to make a difference. On the free fall ride, someone in management might have wanted to modify a few seats for larger guests. Someone might have told a maintenance worker to move the sensor, which allowed the ride to start with the restraint in a position not in the original design. With this modification, the restraint would be at more of a 45 or so degree angle instead of directly downward. This may or may not have been done with an engineer's approval. This may or may not have been done with the ride vendor's permission. Any procedure like this is strictly prohibited from any standpoint in the amusement rides industry. I can't explain why they thought it was okay. In most situations you wouldn't be able to move the sensor much without detaching the bracket and moving the whole thing to a different location. Again, this wouldn't even be discussed anywhere I have ever worked, but they might have at Icon Park. The details of this mechanical procedure never made the headlines in Florida because all the lawsuits were settled, and then someone decided to change the position of that sensor. We will probably never know, though. There is probably a maintenance worker who was ordered to do so. I've worked on enough restraints to know that it was not an accident. Personally, I would have refused to do it, and so would almost everyone that works on these things.
Worked with a lot of banks and their systems. You wouldn't believe how old and fragile they are. It's a wonder it's not all coming crashing down.
Trained artist here. Most oil paints are made with very toxic substances, as are most paint thinners and mediums. Every single one of my teachers was either very sick, cancer, Meniere's disease, or a bit crazy, eating chalk, licking palettes. All incredible artists I was privileged to learn from. One lesson I learned very well: I wear gloves and sometimes a mask when I paint. Edit. I mention Meniere's because one of my favorite teachers had it. I worked closely with him and his suffering holds a large place in my memories of school. While I think the exposure to toxins didn't do him any favors, I should not have implied a correlation. I apologize. To those asking, no paint was licked off palettes. They had just been cleaned with denatured alcohol and he always led with, "Now you could eat off them," before waggling his tongue on the glass. Loved the shock factor, that guy did.
If you're nice to hotel staff, they are more likely to give you free shit.